Good morning, Hacksters! Welcome to Tuesday. It's my favorite day of the week. We have a really cool couple of people we're going to interview today on Hackster Café. We have Salma and Terry from Smells Like ML, and your more recent venture, Remyx.ai, which we're going to dive into a little bit afterwards, which is a hardware-friendly AI platform, ML creation platform. It's really interesting, and I'm excited to hear more about this from you. But yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for hosting us. We're super excited to chat with you and all the Hackster community. We've been working with Hackster for a minute, and it's really awesome to be on this side of the screen. So thanks again.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're gonna take a look at some of your Hackster projects that you've published over the course. I think the earliest ones I saw recently were from 2018, but you've been Smells Like ML for a while. I'm gonna ask you about that, and you've also done numerous projects that have won prizes in our contest. So it's just a pleasure to have you on. You're such rock stars. So first up, can you tell us what is Smells Like ML, and of course, why did you call it that?
Yeah. Smells Like ML is essentially a blog that Terry and I started around that time, 2018, 2017. And the idea here was to showcase a lot of our research and projects as we were first learning AI and also as we were experimenting and publishing our own research. And actually, Terry has a great explanation for the name. He was actually the brains behind that operation.
Oh, well, I guess, at the time we had found a lot of introductory machine learning materials, and we were really interested in showing more projects using machine learning, especially custom machine learning. And so we were thinking about featuring what we were doing with it. And I guess the idea behind the name, of course, it is a reference to like Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like this.
Ah, of course.
It's also wordplay with the idea around like intuition for machine learning. So that was like kind of the idea we wanted to evoke, and people think of the sense of smell as kind of the intuitive sense. So that's part of the name behind it, or part of the reason behind the name too.
Oh, I love that. Oh, we're gonna get into some fun stuff when it gets to like how your brain works and stuff, and also this thing about associating smell with your intuition. I love that. So tell us about some of the different things that you've done under this name on your blog. What are some of your greatest hits that you're excited about on here?
Well, some of them are ones that we had featured in Hackster, and I guess more recently we had been doing a lot with computer vision, especially around machine learning on video. That's been something that's been a big part of a lot of our projects too, is the idea that the camera is cheap, ubiquitous. There's so many things you can learn from a camera feed. We're seeing more and more models able to extract more and more information out of it, and it's a big part of where IoT and robotics have been going for the last few years. So we were interested in exploring that in IoT projects like the one we're looking at here, KimeBot. That was probably one of our first big projects that we really committed to beyond just like making a project page for it. We had made like a site around it. We had made an iOS app. So quite a feat at the time to get an app like this featured. But people were really interested in it, and we still get outreach from that on Product Hunt and places. People were really excited about this project. Gave us a chance to explore machine learning and at the edge, doing interesting experiments around controlling different devices, and I guess gave us a lot of the inspiration for some of the projects we've been working on more recently.
Yeah. I would say one of my favorites is kind of like Action AI. I think
Mm-hmm.
Action AI was an interesting project because from that was kind of one of our first really big open source contributions. At the time, that was kind of like a novel way of doing pose estimation and classification of like action in video. So we figured out a way to kind of break that problem down into components that together would solve that problem. And that project actually led to other projects that we were able to build off of. So things like our deepfake detection, or things like even Gans to Make Her Dance, which is one of my favorites. videos where we make ourselves dance like Bruno Mars. I wish I could do that in real life. Literally, that project helped a lot in making that happen. So I think that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, a few of the projects kind of have this action AI idea of extracting body key points in each frame and then feeding that information into a sequential model to make a prediction. So it's a good way of making activity recognition happen on edge devices. It's a very lightweight approach to doing it. And you see, we were able to do like a two-person motion transfer this way for another project. I guess that was around 2020.
Yeah, so this example here is actually showing those pose estimations we're getting on a Google Coral dev board. And then pose estimates with Pix to then translate like images of ourselves into these stick figures that can actually dance really well.
I love this. And is this the same one that you're showing on your Twitter profile here? Everyone, of course, as usual, you can find the social links for these folks in the description to the video. We've got both the SmellsLikeML link and the Remyxai link, as well as your YouTube channel. Lots of cool stuff going on here, and also your Instagram. It looks like I might not have put this one in here actually because it's a little bit shorter of a list, but lots of cool stuff on here. And oh, sorry. So yeah, tell us about the difference between working on a lot of your projects use the Raspberry Pi Zero wireless, and you've just recently started working with the Google Coral Dev Board, which is obviously more of a recent entry to the market. Tell us about your experience working with these two SBCs and what's the difference experientially and ease of use. And
when we first started, I think we were really excited about the Raspberry Pi. We were doing a lot on the Zero. It's like this very minimal form factor, which gave you like a full OS to work with. So a lot of what we wanted to do was pretty easy to pull off on a board like that. And things like KindBot were based on the Raspberry Pi Zero. The PoochPak was based on it. And I guess we had started maybe around 2019 to do more with NVIDIA's boards, working with TX2s and bigger boards that had more acceleration. I think around that time, you started to see more AI accelerators get into smaller form factors. And even recently, the Coral is a microcontroller that actually has an edge TPU accelerator. We've been working with Coral's edge TPU, the bigger dev board, for a while, and found that to be incredibly powerful for especially things like pose estimation. You can get incredible frame rates for what's kind of a heavier pipeline to run. Ooh. And this dev board is allowing us to run pose estimation in real time on a microcontroller. Main difference from ease of use, I guess, is from the Pi Zero, we were, as I said, able to just kind of treat it like a laptop and SSH and work with it, with a full OS. With the microcontroller, you are dealing with like lower level software. You're learning to use CMake, Hackster, C++ code to modify the examples they have. But they have good examples that are kind of easy to abstract from. That board has two of the Cortex M's, is like M4 and M7, and the Edge TPU. And it's kind of the model that people have been interested in or talking about working on for the last couple of years, about being able to use like a very lightweight processing, low battery power that then eventually wakes up the accelerator to do like the heavier video processing. So we're really excited about this board. It's one that we want to give away in one of our upcoming contests. It's one that we use to feature that update to the Action AI project that we were showing. But been really excited about the full range of boards. We looked at one of the past Hackster cafes and seen, some of the other boards are coming out with the accelerators too. So eager to try them all out. And they, I guess, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I kind of went all.
No, all good. I think I agree with a lot of those points, and also in terms of like ease of use or how you go about using like all these different platforms. I love that the Raspberry Pi feels a lot like if you have like a Linux, a bunch of machine, it feels a lot like just diving into that and using that as your compute layer. Obviously, it's a lot smaller and so has less power. It could still run all of these AI workloads. At the time in like 2018, when we were working with it, it was able to impressively at that time run some of these really heavy kind of computer vision type models, which
It's
is
only
impressive.
easier now.
Yeah, it's only easier now, and probably there's a lot more resources. I know the newer Pis have like some really nice specs. I would say that for the Google Coral dev board and some of the other microcontrollers, it might be a little harder, or you have to kind of like learn a little bit more about their ecosystem because they have their own separate OS and ways of interfacing with it. So you can't necessarily take all of the things that you might do in Ubuntu and translate it directly, but it's similar. So it's not too much of like a learning barrier to get to. And obviously the edge TPU that is on them is very impressive. So the kind of the FPS that you can get on some of these, more complicated computer vision models is really, really awesome to see.
Yeah. Another question for you. When you're choosing a dev board to work with, I'm curious about what the attributes are that you focus on. So, for example, I know that a lot of people sort of invested some time in Intel's Edison platform back in the day, and then it kind of like a lot of their ones kind of just like went for a couple of years and then got deprecated. So obviously longevity is how much do you worry about that? Because you're doing these projects that are like really cool and you can win a contest. And do you worry about them continuing to persist into the future? Or are you always like on to the next thing? And how else do you choose your boards?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we've worked with a lot lately with NVIDIA hardware, which I think is definitely going to be around for a while. We've also been working with the OAK-D camera, which I think is a really impressive camera to develop on. It uses Intel Myriad hardware. Like their new one is able to support 8-bit inference. So it's really fast. They have an awesome SDK for building pipelines in. So I look at the hardware specs and where they're going with the product, but I also look at like the ecosystem of tools around it. Like NVIDIA and Luxonis have done a lot to build an SDK that's very easy to just build up really powerful pipelines for processing video with. And I think that that's made these two like really attractive for the work that we've done, more professionally, where you do have to be aware of the support and the kind of the company itself, right? You want to choose a platform that you can expect to be around for years and build on, and that'll be, I guess, working through whatever issues that might arise as they're releasing new SDKs. Both of those companies have done a lot, I think, to make it easy to just get started and build something really awesome. So most excited about their hardware when we're thinking about a dev board that we can expect to be around and help us like build something really fast.
I would say that when I'm considering projects, or if we're thinking about, for example, when we're thinking about KindBot and building on that as like a long-term project or product potentially, I think things like interoperability with tools that we might expect to use long-term, or just seeing that there's activity and like new things being built on that platform that can work with other tooling that we'd like to use, I think is super important. Obviously, it helps if it's open source. It's more likely for you to have a community, but it's not necessarily like required. But I do think that's also a great sign. It means that you could build on top of it your own tools, and then potentially, support the community back with those tools and expect or see other people doing that. So I think that leads to a richer set of tools that you can rely on for more people to support. I think that's always a great sign for kind of like a good candidate, besides the things that you might want to see, like, does it have enough specs to run the kinds of models that I want to run on? Is it easy for me to update the models that I'm expecting to deploy, or how would that look like in other components?
And you do a lot of contributing back to the community, like you're mentioning. You've got Action.ai and you have a GitHub repo for that. Also for your shoot your shot. I love this one. It's like analyzing your dart skills, and you've got that on GitHub as well.
You should see the new one we just put out. It's imperative. So you probably know when you're making videos, you might record some long form video like this one, and when you want to put it out and show it on social media or somewhere, you want just a little clip, a little like highlight from maybe an exciting part of the conversation. So working a lot with this idea about using chat to kind of automate or simplify workflows. And this FF imperative tool is essentially wrapping FFmpeg with chat so that you can make high level commands that say like, help me add subtitles to this video, and then trim it down to like the best highlight clips. And it's able to extract like clips of the video that are compressed or, resized or processed how you want, using a lot of the workflows that you might use with FFmpeg, but it's kind of difficult to remember. So this is like what we're really excited about recently, I guess, in AI and ML, is the ability to take these complex workflows and make them no code, low code, or chat, very simple, kind of just express the high level intent and have something like a co-pilot to handle all the complexities of that task by running different task specific executors.
Cool. This seems like the perfect time to segue into Remyx, which is your new project. You just started releasing this year, is that right?
That's right. Around the beginning of the year, we were at that time really excited by what we were seeing with Stable Diffusion and image generators, making very realistic images, like ones where it's difficult to tell if you're looking at something real or not a lot of times. And so it really reduced the cost of getting data, which was huge for the workflows we were dealing with, where we needed to make custom models, and data licensing and access was always a challenge. But we started to think that if we could generate high quality data so consistently, it'd be easy for us to match that up with AutoML, especially for certain problems where there's enough constraint, enough of an emerging state of the art, where it was easy to say that these approaches work very consistently, so that we can make it a no code experience for building custom models. It's like when you go to build one of these applications, it's easy to download a model from Open Model Zoo, Open Vino somewhere. Maybe you have person detection, or you have certain models that might be predisposed to seeing a train in the field of view. And that's not actually helpful. A lot of times you need this last mile optimization to get this pre-trained model into a state that's useful for your application. So if you wanted to track dogs, or you wanted to track some very specific object for your application, you need something that's tuned to that environment. And that's where we started really building on this engine.
Cool. Maybe I won't play this right now, but yeah, people can sign up for this now. Is that right? I went to your engine page that you sent me, and you can go ahead and log in already. I haven't done that yet because I just wanted to show people that you can go with Google or GitHub, but I'll do that in a second. And there's a blog where people can catch up with everything that's happening with Remyx. But yeah, tell us, is this ready to go already?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So actually, if you were to click one of those buttons, Google or GitHub, then it would create a login for you, and then you'd see that Remyx engine view.
Cool.
There you go. So you can see that
fast.
You can have this model assistant. So it's kind of a chat interface where you can describe, hey, I have a hackathon that I'm working on in Hackster.io, part of this contest, and I need to build a turtle bot that can identify or distinguish between my cat and dog, for example. And we want to make sure that this can run on a Raspberry Pi, and it has to run really fast. So we want to make sure it's a small model. So giving it details of what you want to build, then you click that create, and it'll basically take that text and try to understand okay, what are we trying to build? What are we trying to make here? And it'll translate that to, okay, we're building now a model for you, and it'll look like this. It takes a minute to be able to process it, but in a moment, it'll send you to your models page, and it'll start kicking off the process to train a model.
Cool. And so you're working with existing models, but you're sort of trimming them down and tailoring them to each use case, so that people don't have to work with an entire gigantic data set, so that that's so cool. We had a live demo issue that's standard, live demo behavior.
Oh yeah. We're using some APIs, so they might be a little spotty here and there, but that's kind of one of the interfaces you can use. There's also buttons you can click into and just kind of describe it at high level. But the idea basically is you just kind of click through, you describe, say, I want cat versus dog classifier, and I wanted to make it a small model. click the create, and then in just like a few minutes, usually for this kind of model, it takes roughly like 30 minutes. It'll start training a model for you. And in the back end, what's happening is actually we're using things like stable diffusion, kind of like these image generator models, along with like real images from the wild. We're creating and collecting that data set for you, labeling it accordingly, and then training everything. So at the end, you just kind of click a button and you have your model. You can now put it on your Raspberry Pi and like get your TurtleBot going, for example.
That's so exciting. So I hadn't actually heard about AutoML before. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I guess a lot of people are interested in quickly prototyping machine learning models. And if you want to build a model, but you want kind of an application to help with that and to maybe raise the UI to something like using a GUI or using chat, then you might use AutoML. Different groups have different emphasis on it. Some groups are focused on a certain domain that they're interested in. Others are focused on certain techniques that they're using. And for us, AutoML is something that we saw was going to be really easy to work with for computer vision, which, as was mentioned before, is like pretty useful task to try to handle. And so building computer vision models using this index of images that we have and these image generators, it was possible through chat, through stable diffusion, through these techniques to make constructing a data set as easy as just kind of setting the labels for image classes that you're interested in. We were interested in doing more than just image classification. That's where we started, but it was the easiest one to start with. And these days, with all the different, I guess, image processing models that are available in open source, weakly labeled data sets, and by that I mean like images that are just tagged with there's a person in there. That's almost as good as a very well labeled data set. It's almost as good as having the data set auto labeled, because there's so many techniques that are emerging to make it possible to say, I know there's a person in the image, where are they? Like, give me a detailed mask around them so I can get like pixel level details of where a person might be in that image. And so this is like the set of techniques that we're applying to go from, vague expression of, cat versus dog, let's say, or some other toy model, to be able to build like image detectors just from text prompts. And we see this as part of a bigger idea, of building more complex applications that compose models. We want to help people build pipelines. When we're looking at these NVIDIA and OAK products, they do a good job with their SDK about making it possible to compose models and make more complex applications. And we want to build tools that help people to do more of that around some of the workflows, so that you can sort of express your intent about a task you want to have done and have a tool that puts that on Copilot.
Cool. And you have a newsletter around this stuff. I'm going to drop the link in the comments here for everyone who's here with us live. And I'm also going to drop that into the description later on. So everyone be sure to sign up for this newsletter if you want to hear more about what's going on with Remyx. You can also go follow them on GitHub, of course, and also they're on Twitter. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Yeah, ML Simplified. I'm really excited about this. I have... So I build robots, and this is like a huge part of, like, I feel like I'm more of a like hardware minded person, and when it comes to writing the software, I'm just like, and so everything that I can do to like make it easier to work with is extremely exciting to me personally. So
Yeah.
to you.
We're working a lot building like robotics applications and perception, and one of the things that jumped out was, when people are going to bring more robots into the world, they're going to need to make them very robust to the differences of, your scene, your home, or your warehouse, or wherever it is. It needs to be able to like really quickly adapt to that scene. And nowadays, like, the state of the art is sending a robotics engineer out to like calibrate cameras and, scan the space and build a map or something like this. And it's just not a scalable approach to bringing robotics into the world. So we're really excited about these kinds of tools, making it easier for people to like quickly adapt and just kind of continuously progress their models and do it in a way that's more automated so that you can focus on the application part, because in the end, the model is just equivalent to a sensor, right?
Yeah, it's like a software
Yeah,
program.
you just want to know like if something is present or not, or you want to be able to interact with it at that level and not necessarily at like munging data to build this thing. It's like, how can you accelerate the development of those kinds of applications?
Yeah, like really that was the idea kind of behind putting something like this together, is understanding that there's a lot of folks who, probably aren't from a data background, don't want to be from a data background, quite frankly. That's kind of like a part where it's, obviously resource intensive, takes a lot of time. It might be hard to get those assets just to get your project off the ground. Like, say, for example, you're trying to build like one of those really cool companion owls that you Alex, and you wanted to do like a certain task or something. Wouldn't want you to get bogged down into like having to scrub the internet for whatever assets you need just to get that program made, right? So the idea here is to make all of this stuff a little bit more accessible, more easy. So it's more about what you create out of it.
Absolutely. Now, I got a question for you that's sort of around one of my main areas of interest in terms of ML as it stands. So obviously there's some flaws in the technology as it currently stands and how it's used. So like some data sets, for example, around people are like very much skewed toward like white male people, or like, other types of divisions. And this seems like the type of tool that you could use to, for example, balance a data set, take a larger data set and like balance it. So be like, make sure that it's this ratio that corresponds more to the type of demographics that I see in my area or something like that. Have you thought about applications like that, or what are your desired applications that you think are missing in the world at large right now that this can help with?
That's actually a thing that I'm really, really excited about, kind of like building this AutoML platform, kind of like for those of you that might not know what the heck AutoML means, it's kind of like automatic machine learning, so automating away the process of building those assets. And in that, folding the part where we do the data preparation and transformation, we have the ability to design the data as you see it fit. So if you wanted to design a data set to fit, a specific demographic or scenario, you have a lot more control over that when you have things like generators than having to pick things off the wild, for example.
Or being able to expose the ability to query data sets of your design. So we definitely think that machine learning can benefit from being more specialized to like the environment that the model is going to be put into. But at the same time, we should say there's certain types of computer vision challenges that this is really well set up for, and other types where we don't really want to wade into that just yet. Like, I wouldn't want to say, let's use our tool to generate like the ideal demographic distribution for a person detector, but rather I would like to use like sets that are designed by experts for that. I would rather use models like a person detector is commodity. Like, you can get it from Intel. Any hardware provider who's trying to show how they can do AI on their device is going to have a person detector like as the default model. And we want to encourage people to use that, but it's really more like where you have a challenge getting the data. Like, you work with a group and maybe they don't have a ladder detector, but they need one for their environment. It's like, you're not going to find that in ImageNet. You're not going to kind of, visual wake words, that approach where you can just take a segment of some benchmark data set and build it up. You kind of need to go out and acquire it somehow. A lot of people would try to scrape data. A lot of people would try to buy data or work with somebody to acquire a large set and annotate it. But all this is like prohibitive to the individual developer, the maker. We think that you can take a tool like ours and build a SnapML app and do something beyond like detecting a person's there, but have more of a intelligent interaction with the person and something else. So we want to facilitate those applications especially.
Awesome. This visual wake words concept makes total sense, and I've never actually heard that term before, but I'm totally going to dig into that. I love it. So you work with a number of different companies in your day-to-day. So you work directly with do you work directly with like Intel and NVIDIA?
Oh, I guess like in recently, we're working with NVIDIA through their Inception program. It's like a program that's providing resources, cloud resources for startup, and getting access to things like Omniverse Replicator to do synthetic data. There's a lot of interesting stuff to be doing for designing data sets using those techniques too. But from the day-to-day, I guess we've worked with them as like developer advocates in some capacity, less directly now.
Very cool. So I'm just curious, do you have tips for people working with these companies and how to get involved, and or tips for companies who are working with creators like you, how they can make their programs better?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I do think a lot of people should understand that these contests that companies are putting on is a good opportunity to share their work. And I think that we've often found it helpful to kind of show our work through brand partnerships like this. I guess I would tell people to go look at Hackster, go look at their favorite sites for running a contest, and pay attention to the ones where you get like free access to hardware, you get a community of people that are working on similar problems. It's good motivation for kind of showing, stunting your work. But I don't know what I would suggest to the companies. I don't know. What do you think?
I think obviously, like for companies to put out contests, I think it's a great way to build community around the thing that you're building. Obviously, kind of like being able to interface with customers more directly. Presumably, your customers might be some kind of like a developer flavor if you're building that type of tool. I think it's a great opportunity to work with them that way. And I think to reiterate what Terry said, for us, we found that sharing our work through platforms like Hackster, through making our own blog, not only helped us be able to expose everything that we were learning to other folks. I think we were also able to learn from other people who were making suggestions or, asking like, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Helping us expand what we thought could be possible with the project. I think is also a great opportunity. Just basically talking to more people on the internet, showcasing what you have to bring to the table, and then also engaging what other folks have building is always a great way to lead to all kinds of opportunity.
Yeah, and you've got an amazing documentation set up here. Just like one of my favorite things is, people building really cool stuff, but also part of what wins the contest and what makes me really happy to like follow you folks is just look at this. It's so good. You've got so many little videos showing exactly what's going on, and it's really fun. And you did win 2 prizes with this. You got Best Donkey Car Project and the most fun social media video. So what are your tips for just building a solid set of documentation and that you've learned over the years of doing this?
Oh, I think amongst us, I've been the one to geek out on the documentation pretty heavily. I think what has helped me, because I definitely started off where I would leave a couple of notes and it was like, I would come back to it and it was like, what did I mean by this? To now maybe being a little bit more easy to follow. I think kind of putting yourself in the shoes of a complete stranger and looking at what you've built and say, okay, how do I make sense of this? What just happened? How do I try to recreate the steps and follow it with the view of like complete stranger to the thing you just built really helps in trying to paint that picture. So through that exercise, you might think like, oh, maybe a diagram would make it really easy for someone to like think about, the complex workflow that I came up with here, or maybe a video showing like what my, with the controller that we had for there, like what is the keys that we need to build or press for certain kinds of operations.
Very visual.
Very
right?
visual helps, as well as just like if there's like a set of like, configuration instructions, if you can package that into like PyPy environments or a Docker environment, a Docker image is super easy to like just ship out and have someone be able to reproduce everything.
That's something I would say, like, especially over the last year. So since that project, we've really developed more of our own internal workflows for how can we reproduce something, how can we package it so that it's like just like easier for somebody else to pick up on. And I'm really excited or bullish about just using Docker a lot. Like it makes it possible to just pull an image down and have the environment you need. But yeah, in general, we use We use a lot of images, I would say, like a lot of visual storytelling for this. A lot
Mhm.
of I guess GIFs and little action sequences helped, especially for that post that got like the social media award.
And also,
Yeah.
I think when building this stuff, just like have fun and remember what were the most fun parts about it. I think it makes it easier to kind of like convey the ideas in a digestible way to folks. I think a very big part of making something reproducible is putting it in a format that other folks can digest and take in. And I think, just having that little flavor of fun helps out.
I do think that you really communicate your enjoyment of building these things. Like, it's just fun to look at this too. Um, what are each of your favorite parts of the process when you're building a new project?
Mm, I guess I really like, setting out like with the feet. Like in this one, I think we were really thinking that the garden controller was a super popular, kind of like the hello world of hardware hacking or something. And we wanted to like take that idea as far as we could, like using all the state of the art techniques and really like test the limits. Like, could we do this? Could we make it run faster? Could we make control automated for temperature? It was
Hmm.
just like how far could we go with it? And that was like the exciting part, I think, is just like looking back on and saying, wow, this is an amazing garden controller. Like, can we build a site for it? Can we like build an exciting community of people that actually want to see a product around it? We tried to kickstart that one, and we didn't launch it. Like, we set a high goal. We didn't quite hit it, but we did get like random people from the internet that were really excited to commit to buying a device like that. And so I think like seeing it go further and come to reality, and I guess seeing people get excited about the concept is all really, really rewarding about like starting one of these.
Yeah, for me, when we build projects, especially hardware related projects, I love the idea of making something tangible in real life. Have a program or some kind of like system that you created to make it do something in the real world. I think that's fascinating to me. That's one of the reasons why I really like robotics, or I'm a fan of them. And whenever we build projects together, I think the feat is really awesome. Just like see what you can make this thing do, push it to like the absolute limits of what the device can do or what you can put together. And then also for me personally, I'm not a hardware person, although I try. So even the little things of like I get to solder something together and figure out if I can make it work and hopefully not fry it is also very exhilarating.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about your history actually. You've both got very deep, rich histories in technology in general, but also machine learning. Could you tell us a little bit about each of your journeys getting to this point?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess I remember, probably like 2015 or something. I was just starting to do machine learning professionally, working for a healthcare company and doing a lot of like text processing to help with their processing of documents for certain departments that needed to like adjudicate procedures and so forth. So I was working in that a lot, and Salma was showing me like what she was interested in with Arduino, and I'm like, yeah, you should do more machine learning actually, like stuff's so. But it wasn't that long after that we started to see like, yeah, you can actually make some really interesting stuff by bringing these two ideas together. And that's around when we really started. We discovered Hackster, and we were like, wow, like we could show off all these interesting ideas, like make projects like this. And I think that's what brought us more into like the IoT and computer vision side of things. After our work starting with Smells Like ML, we started to do more work with robotics groups and do more with those kinds of machine learning tasks, doing more with machine learning and video. I suppose a couple of years ago, we were really excited by GANs and generative AI, and started dabbling with diffusion, training custom models on that for some of our experiments. We have some like projects out where we've made some collections of images, and it was like sort of becoming becoming kind of apparent around that time that you could probably start to see like sim to real happen with machine learning. And by that, I mean like building a machine learning algorithm that you can deploy and run inference on from real world camera feeds based on like simulation and synthetic data, training models in that way. And that was a really exciting area to kind of like bring these ideas of computer vision and generative AI together. So we were excited about that and about simulation methods. But like I said, it was really when we saw like how realistic the models got. Honestly, last year I was so tunnel vision on the robotic perception problem. I kind of didn't even notice when stable diffusion dropped. And I talked to my friends a little bit after that, and he's like, "Hey, have you seen what people are doing with?" He's like coming up, "Hey, have you seen what people are doing with diffusion?" And I'm like, "No, what's that? Oh, that's neat. Like, it's a lot more realistic. You can do it with text now." And I started to like really dig into that, and actually started working on some consultancy projects more in generative AI for image and text. And this is when it became like clear to us around the beginning of the year, like we could build a tool like this. It would really lower the barrier to a very difficult problem. A lot of people were focusing on, these workflows around content production, but we thought that content production is an interesting problem. A lot of people face it. Mid-Journey or somebody is making an excellent image generator. But the bar is a lot lower for just training models that can be used in real world use cases, business problems. So we wanted to dig more into like building image data sets cheaply and efficiently for training custom models. So we did a lot more with that technology, with the infrastructure we put together for supporting this and for making the pipelines more optimized for this use case where the resolution of images can be lower, and we're more interested in like big batches and efficient training of models.
Mm,
Yeah.
very cool.
Salma's got some whole other art to add into this with her
I'm very curious.
ML ops and everything she's been doing for the last couple of years. I kind of just told like my slice, but
I would say like my slice is obviously very inspired with what Terry was doing, especially early on in 2015. I think I was observing everything that he was getting into with machine learning and thought like, hey, that's a really cool space. Like it seems like it could be very impactful. There's could be a very flexible type of software, which I thought was exciting. And then at the time, obviously, Terry painting the picture of me trying to wrap my head around Arduinos. I was trying to make a costume that would light up with music. So it was like a VU meter. So that was my first hackathon project that I was like really excited to get going. But as we kind of started getting more and more into the details of everything, as Terry mentioned, we were seeing that there was more and more the capabilities of being able to blend in those hardware devices, those SOM boards, with like what was happening in AI. And just kind of dove headfirst into everything when we discovered Hackster and trying to put all of our stuff out on the internet and share our journey. I think through that, at least in my side of the story, like I really leaned into building out SmellsLikeML, the blog with the help of Terry, building out some of those projects, making videos around it was a new, interesting challenge for myself. And I think it was a great opportunity to expand on like, okay, we have this intersection. How much more can we explore and expand upon it? Through that, I think I wanted to kind of even get a bit more of a taste about like, we've been building these projects and putting out this research. I'd love to see how other folks go about putting this out into the world and also expanding it within companies and startups. And so this is what led me to work with Databricks for a moment, where I was kind of a machine learning advisor essentially to customers who wanted to understand how they would put these complex systems together. It was a great organization to work with. I think I learned a lot in terms of building systems. So through these projects, I was able to kind of get the prototypes up and going. And then through that opportunity, I was able to understand how people use things like the cloud and like massive scale to get these things really, distributed around the world. And through those learnings, and kind of around the same time that Terry kind of was working with a robotics group and also doing some consultancy, we obviously saw all the latest updates, all the changes that were happening around generative AI, which is like a really exciting kind of slice of AI that we were both really interested in, and realized that there was a potential to build a system that could build or that could expand the access and resources of building machine learning solutions to many more people, because it was just much simpler to get the ingredients working together. So I think that kind of was a catalyst for us to like join our heads together again and kind of start this new endeavor with Remyx.ai.
Cool. And what other inspirations have you? So, you talked about building one of your first projects being a light up dress as kind of a view meter. Very exciting. Are there other interests and hobbies that have influenced the kind of stuff that you build? Because there's such a broad set of things. Like I love the one where you put cellular enabled ML platform on your little doggy. I should just pull that one up. But yeah, what other types of interests in your lives have you brought into your projects? Hobbies or
clearly we love plants. One big inspiration for that. We obviously love our Pooch here, Sweet Pea, doing obviously great QAing for us there. The things around us just improving kind of like our lives, or a lot. We were really into like home IoT devices for a minute, just to see like what else can we build that would help enrich our lives and the lives of others. At least for me personally, it was an inspiration. And also, I love things that move. I love building like kind of like the turtle bot is one of my favorite things to play with. We have drones and stuff like that. We've actually put a little Luxonis oak camera in there on this build. But like I love things that kind of interact with the world. So any excuse to put something on wheels, I would love to hop onto.
Yeah, I guess like lately it's that idea of building something that is moving around, interacting in the world, like embodied. So we're really into like things that people can do with AR and VR or robotics. Like a lot of this does mean like perception is relevant for moving around in a spatial environment. So that's been like something we've been pretty excited about lately. And I guess yeah, just in general, the idea of this technology making it easy to like figure out ways to abstract things. Like that video processing tool is our toy model for what we can be doing with data processing. So we want to build tools that will make it possible for you to say like, do this thing, and enough domain knowledge, enough of a bias in the model to just do the task helps you to bring that to a high level kind of natural language way of interacting with the tool.
Love it. So you already got some examples out for using Remyx. So already a bunch of jumping off places for people who want to use this with hardware. Very exciting. What about other people who inspire your work? Who are some of your favorite creators?
I can think of like a few people I've seen. I admire like Pinto, who makes a model for everything, right? Like has been a awesome person to follow and learn from. I think I think there's a lot of stuff happening in open source and a lot of groups emerging and putting out research. So it's been amazing to see like how things have been progressing over the last few months. I would say like impressed with the Hugging Face group. They've really built a community that's brought a lot of research to like a broader audience. And so we kind of see that as a good handoff point for helping another set of audience who maybe is not ready to meet at the research level, but does need to make practical use of machine learning, maybe can afford to abstract certain simple, well understood workflows away into using a tool like ours.
Nice. Cool. Let's see. I've just got a few more questions for you here. And then we're going to move into sort of the future. So you use 3D modeling in some of your projects, which I love 3D modeling, and I mostly use like Unshape and a Creality 3D printer, and maybe a Lulzbot. So I'm curious about what your tool chain is. What is your workflow? What CAD software? What 3D printers? What materials do you prefer? Are there other types of fabrication that you like to use? Like, do you use laser cutting sometimes and 3D printing sometimes? Tell us all about it.
We have a
Prusa
M3 from back in the day. And we've experimented with different kinds of material. Like for KindBot, we built like a wood kind of a shell for that. Kind of like, I think
it's a filament that has like wood embedded in it too. So that's what gave it that wooden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We were able to get like a faux wood by printing with that material and staining it and sanding it in different ways. So that was a fun one for 3D printing. Learned a lot about kind of finishing it in a nice way.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, we also tried experimenting with other kinds of filament, but I think that one was my favorite.
Yeah.
Terry obviously had a great eye and hand for detail on that. I think hats off to you for that one. It was really interesting to see the ability of like expressing wood essentially kind of out of like a little extruder is kind of mind blowing.
I used to work a lot with like polyester resin. I used to make surfboards. I used to glass surfboards, and so I was like, for me, like working on stuff like that was a lot of fun, and like that's why I was able to kind of geek out on the finish. I should go run into the other room and show what we're making with like clay, like. But as far as 3D print, we haven't done as much of it recently. I guess like we've thought a lot about upgrading the printer. We know that Prusa has a new one, and thinking about going with other printing or trying another printing method too. But I liked working a lot with like glass or resin or these types of materials. Salma likes working with other artistic mediums entirely. Like we got some interesting stuff, more like painting or like clay and sculpture.
Yeah, I guess besides just hardware hacking, we like to geek out on other art mediums too, like gesso and things like that. We like to build and make art too. But I think on the 3D printer technology, one thing that I've been super curious to try, but it's kind of like still out of at least my budget right now. It's that other form or other technology of 3D printing where you use a resin and it curates like every layer. I think I know we got a sample print a long time ago, and we thought it's like really, really cool to make such
from
detail.
the Form Labs.
Yeah, it's a Form Labs.
Yeah.
That's exactly, it was the tip of my tongue and I couldn't remember the name, but I think that technology is super cool. Still yet to try it, but I'd love to hear if anyone else has tried it too.
They work with resins. Like it's a way of using UV and epoxy resin, which is like similar to one way of building surfboards, epoxy surfboards.
Yeah, I've done a little bit with carbon fiber, which is similar to how people work with fiberglass and resin and stuff, but of course, pretty toxic. So we kind of
I got out of it, I was working in Hawaii at one of the biggest factories for making surfboards. I used to make 100 surfboards a day in the 90s. And
wow.
I was working there and doing all the things you shouldn't do, like plunging my hands into acetone to get the resin off of my hands.
Oh, no.
Great.
Catalyst that can blind you if it gets in your eyes, and I'm just doing this VOCs, these fumes that are coming off the board, and I'm thinking to myself that I really should do something else because this is going to cause brain damage or like poison me slowly. And it's a really toxic process building surfboards, but it was also kind of a wake-up call for me, I think, to like take a look at like what was happening to that industry. Everything's done and by automation now. Like surfboards are shaped by a machine. They just get like a little finishing touch at the end.
You're not getting those fumes up anymore.
Yeah, interesting. I will say I've done a little bit of integrating 3D printing with carbon fiber, and I'm curious, like, because you can print on fabric, and you can also like print directly on carbon fiber before you cure it, or before you add the resin, and then it'll like be part of the main thing. I'm curious if you thought about embedding electronics into surfboards or integrating those two in any way.
Yeah.
No, so you're thinking like with the hardware and battery sizes, like you could totally hollow out a section of a surfboard, like hollow out home and embed this in there and then glass it back in. So it's like, what kind of applications would be interesting? And you could put a little camera maybe like on the underside of the board. You could imagine like, I guess like kind of like the adaptive driver assist kind of a idea would be applied for something like that. I'm trying to think like what's a practical use case, and you could imagine it like swerving if there was something that emerged. Like sometimes when you're surfing, the water sucks up and then you see this coral head pop up, or maybe there's like a person who just popped up. You could imagine like, you know, the future of safer surfing looking like a hard left around the obstacle or something like this. It's kind of like one of our more out there ideas that we haven't gotten around to prototyping, but there is a surfboard hanging out. Maybe we'll that idea this summer.
Just think of it one wheel, but for actual and the actual water.
How could you bring one wheel like steering or something to a surfboard? That's an interesting idea, though.
Ooh, personally, I'm a bit of a weenie about deep water at all, and so I like the idea of like if you could put like sonar in it and just tell me if there's, so that I could have the feeling that like there probably isn't anything huge coming from under to swallow me up, but if there were, I would get advance notice.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have false positives, and then I'll freak out and like.
Exactly.
Another good use for ML. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our session. I would love to hear what's next so you've got Remyxai, which is the new hotness, and I'm really excited to play with that a bit. You're looking to integrate it. You've mentioned that you're working toward Arduino integration. You have support for Salmas, system on modules, embedded cameras, and mobile devices. So tell us about what's now and what's coming up.
Well, we actually just had added into the application the ability to train object detectors from text. So we're working on that. We're going to refine that and extend it to other useful computer vision tasks. We're working a lot with agent. So we want to be able to help people with composing these models into pipelines and to be able to quickly prototype those and then have them essentially converted into production-ready pipelines for the deployment environment that they are interested in. So we want to support computer vision pipelines. Our tool feeds into that pretty well, but we're also interested in generalizing to machine learning pipelines that you might deploy in the cloud and building tools that can help simplify or compose that workflow with chat.
Yeah, so I think kind of like besides just kind of expanding the range of the types of models that we're going to support, like that new object detection, we're trying to build out this chat interface that we think would make it a lot easier for developers to describe the kind of thing that they're working on, they're building, that they'd like to create, and have the engine reason through that request and kind of build out the components to make that happen. I'd love to make a tool and a machine learning tool that essentially doesn't require you to, have a lot of know-how about machine learning concept necessarily, or have been working in that field to get started. I'd love to have people from, all kinds of developers from different walks of life, from hardware to other kinds of software disciplines, to be able to just hop in there and describe what they'd like and then have an asset that they can work with. So I think building out that interface and helping folks break down the problems around machine learning and composing different kinds of like pipelines together to create complicated systems, just make that more accessible and easy.
Ooh, and how can people, if they have like specific things they're excited to work on, but they don't necessarily know how to do it yet, what would be a good way for them to get in touch with you? If you want that, I'm sure you have your own set of plans and stuff, but.
First, sign up, train a free model. We're learning from the feedback that users have. We have a program now because it's an early tool, and of course, there's lots to work on. You can try out a model and let us know how it worked with feedback. You can get another free model, and we do want to work to make it really specialized to the use cases that our customers are coming up with. So I think joining our newsletter, trying out the application, reaching us by our email at contact if you want a more direct way to chat with us. Of course, social media handles, like share what you think about the tool, and we're going to be putting out a contest to try to give away some of the boards that we have been excited by, to show people that we're able to help build custom applications for all these targets.
Yeah, just to reiterate, if anything pops up, anything at all, feel free to shoot us an email at contact@Remyxai. We'll definitely respond there and send you any kind of goodies. And also, I think the monthly mix newsletter is a great vector to kind of stay up to date on all the things that we're building, and then also get opportunities to share your work with us, and we'll help promote it out, just like be able to give back to the community. We are planning to give out, in terms of hardware, I know I'm very excited by this, Google Coral Dev Board. So the one that we showed here, we're planning to give this little guy out. And also we have an Arduino NickleVision.
Oh, love those.
Cool platform that I think would be awesome for folks to get. So make sure to sign up for that monthly mix newsletter. Join us at Remyx.ai. Sign up for the engine.remyx.ai platform. You can train your own model. Let us know how it goes. And we're looking forward to getting the feedback and working with people. We really want to make something that really helps people out in this domain.
Yes. So just to go through those links once again, we have, these are in the description. We've got SmellsLike.ML. We've got SmellsLikeML on Twitter. We've got Remyx.ai and their engine, which is you just hit that get started button and you're there. We've got twitter.com/Remyxai. There's a SmellsLikeML YouTube channel. I've put the link to the newsletter as well as the contact email address in the comments, but also we'll put those in the description to this video so you can reach out and also get online on the list for those giveaways. Very exciting. And I also got to just point out that I started trying, I'm not sure if I formatted this correctly or not, but I got very excited about trying to classify different core vids because I want to make like a crow robot, and it's already come back. And it's got some code here for me to play with, and some cool stuff that I'm going to be exploring. So cool.
Actually, in that view, if you kind of click the in the dashboard on the right-hand side, there's an options button. You can click the run model in browser.
Oh yeah, and you can drop a pen.
So it'll expose a way for you to drop an image in there, and it'll tell you what it thinks it is.
TensorFlow.js in the back in the browser.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go play with this afterwards. I won't make people stumble through it with me, but like that is so exciting. I'm gonna do it. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. This has been such a pleasure. I love to talk to people who are like actively using Hackster to share their tutorials, and you've also got all this stuff on GitHub. You're really just amazing, generous, sharing people, and it's wonderful to have you as part of our community and get to highlight your work a little bit. Good luck with SmellsLikeML and Remyx.ai. I can't wait to see where you're going with this. Thanks again.
Thanks again. It's been an honor.
Cheers. And thanks everyone for joining us. Bye. Hack on.